On to this tonight, the Auditor-General has recorded 166 billion rand in irregular expenditure at 286 departments and state-owned entities. Only 48 departments and 67 state-owned companies received clean audits in the past financial year. For more on this, we're joined by former Standing Committee on Public Accounts Chairperson Themba Godi. Mr. Godi, a very good evening to you. Welcome to News at Prime. So, you dealt a lot with these reports during your time as chairperson of SCOPA. The AG yesterday was somewhat optimistic, saying things are getting better. Your reflection on the latest report, please.
Well, I don't know what your optimism is based on. Otherwise, it sounds very much like what I've been having on an annual basis. 27% of the departments have clean audits. Is that supposed to be an achievement? The SOEs are declining. You have very high, unbelievable levels of irregular expenditure. Fruitless and wasteful expenditure has gone beyond 1 billion rands. I think that for me, there's no reason for optimism, because here we're talking about professionals who have been employed to do their work on the basis of their skills. How are they failing to comply with the law? Let alone talking about service delivery, which is a problem.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, in announcing or releasing the report yesterday, the AG said, yes, we're sitting with about 166 billion rand in irregular expenditure, but that figure could still rise because there were some people who did not make the necessary submissions. Why have we not been able to get a handle on this situation, given that, as you say, we've diagnosed the problem for years? Everyone knows what the issue is. There have been promises that, A, the AG's powers will be beefed up, more mechanisms will be introduced at government level to make sure that people know how, for example, to put together a competent financial statement, yet here we are again, another year of the same issue.
Yeah, not true. When I left, I think regular expenditure was around 50 billion. And 3 years down the line, we are over 100 billion. So I don't see that as improvement. Now, you recall that in 2014, Cabinet took a decision that all personnel in the supply chain management must be vetted so that their financial integrity can be confirmed. That process did not take place. When it was started, there was a revolt amongst employees, from Transnet to the police to SABC. They refused. Now, it means that our supply chain management is in the hands of people whose integrity cannot be confirmed. And to the extent that we see irregular expenditure rising year in and year out, it tells you that the ability to follow rules and regulations is not there. And this is because there is no action that is being taken that should disincentivize people from circumventing and shortcutting processes that are laid down in law. And until such time that government, from the political leadership to the administrative leadership, take decisive and firm action to reverse this rot, it will just continue. I mean, if we are beyond 100 billion, it means about 10% of the entire budget is spent not following the law. And if the expenditure budget of government is around 500 to 600 billion, if you are at 100 billion, it means almost 20% of the budget is spent without following rules and regulations. Now, that cannot be acceptable by any standards.
Only the Development Bank of Southern Africa is a state-owned entity with a clean audit for 2020-2021. Other SOEs, as you said, appear to be a lost cause, qualified audits and a range of other issues picked up in their financial reporting. Are we going to continue in the long term on the same course where we're sitting with state-owned enterprises, we're pouring in billions, but people are barely able, if at all, accounting for how that money is being used?
Very true. I think for me, the starting point is political leadership. You recall that President Ramaphosa came to office on the tail of accountability, fighting corruption, and all that stuff. But 2 or 3 years down the line, it is clear that there isn't much movement. Even the investigating directorate of the NPA, which was established 2 years ago, you have seen its head has left. And in that 2 years, there is no single case that has been brought to court and has been finalized. And we see media reports that this was after about 400 million had been used on lawyers to pursue cases that they have not been able to do anything about. So a combination of political will, administrative will, but also the ability of law enforcement to crack down on those that are corrupt. It's what is going to change the situation, the absence of which will just degenerate continuously into a banana republic.
You know, we speak a lot about ESCOM, SABC, DENAL, but another place that's fraught with irregular expenditure and poor accounting is the National Student Financial Aid Scheme. In this latest report, it accounts for about 77, I think, billion rand of that total sum. Is the NSFAS getting enough attention as far as the state of its money and record keeping? Because yes, irregular expenditure doesn't necessarily mean that money was stolen, but in this case, for example, it's not acting according to the AG in accordance with the rules on consultation with the minister on criteria for students qualifying, for example, something which is quite basic.
Yeah, well, irregular expenditure means that the law has been broken. Processes and procedures have not been followed. And all of those are not there for decoration. They're there to be followed. And if they're not followed, there should be consequences. I want to agree with you that NSFAS, and I regret that we tried to give it attention late in the day because with the talk around free education for tertiary students, we do need to say, but the money that is allocated to assist these students, how is it used? I mean, if you combine the incompetence of NSFAS and the extravagance that universities engage in, then you realize that hardly no one is interested in ensuring that the little resources we have are used maximally to ensure that everybody is able to attend. And NSFAS is a key culprit. And I'm just, it's worrisome that the political leadership of NSFAS, that is the ministry, is led by people who are supposed to be pro-poor, look after the interests of the poor. And yet here you have an entity, as you correctly point out, that maybe has not been so much in the public eye. And yet when you look at its work, I mean, I've met students who have either not been paid or who have not been paid all the amounts, who have to sleep in libraries or elsewhere because their accommodation has not been paid, all because of the incompetences of NSFAS. And I think it might be worth our while to maybe put some focus on NSFAS, because then that will explain why we have all these problems that we're having. Come January, we're going to have the same dance where students will be striking at universities, calling for registration of those who do not have money, who are not funded because the systems at NSFAS are just dysfunctional and corruption reigns supreme.
Themba Godi, former chairperson of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts. Good to speak to you tonight, so thank you for your time.